a tune, we had to replace all the guitars and 90% of the vocals. And then I had to dub in audience loops. I had loops of audience from all the various gigs, right? And I had like 4 or 5 different quarter-inch tape machines with like 60-foot tape loops going out in the studio around mic stands. I had loud, I had soft, I had medium, I had all these different things. And I literally created that album out of that. It's a little background story on that. You asked me to digress. More questions, more questions.
With the advent of DVD coming out soon, hopefully, and ISDN, all these new digital toys, how do you see the future of
Good.
home,
I tell you why I think
the
it's
market and how DVD is going to seriously affect the market when it
I
comes
don't
out?
know that, but I do know one thing that I think is critical. The main complaint about digital recording is the fact that the sampling rate is too low. Now I believe it's going to be 96. Is it 96K? Yes. Well, 20. Yeah, that's the converters, but the rate of sampling, instead of being 44.1, it's now 96, or 48. It's now 96. That is a step in the right direction. I will be experimenting with all of these new formats in the next 6 to 8 weeks as they become available to the professionals. I think it's going to make a big difference. I think going 24-bit, 96K, then coming back down to 16-bit, you will actually hear the benefit of that. Even though we're coming back down to a lower number, I think that the CD will actually benefit from that. What it means in the future for DVD, I don't know how that's going to impact on the retail market. Inevitably, it'll be more expensive to begin with until the price comes down. That's something I have not quite investigated. I'm very curious, though, from an engineering standpoint, what it can do for me, particularly since I'm involved in all this, storage medium stuff. I have to think, God, I'm looking to the future for the Hendrix material. What am I going to store it on, how am I going to convert the analog Hendrix stuff into the latest digital technology and still make it sound cool? That's a real challenge. But it's a very good question. And here comes a gentleman with a purple shirt. He's about to attack us.
Along those lines, I don't know if you guys are aware, but regular stereo receivers don't sell anymore. People are buying 5-channel setups, and by the millions are putting 5-channel setups in their homes. I think it's becoming the de facto standard of maybe where you guys might be mixing to in the future. Is that
I've already,
yes.
In fact, when I was up at Lexicon, they have a system. You're aware of that? I take it. They do have a system. It's very good. I have tried to experiment with it. If they can get the prices down, I'm sure in the next 5-10 years it'll be the standard. But at the moment, who can afford, how much is it? $5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand? I don't know. It's a lot of money, Most people can just about afford to pay for gas, let alone for a machine like that. I'm not knocking it. I'm saying that, yes, it will happen, but I think it's like anything else. It starts off high, and as the demand increases, the prices come down.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
You talked about the magic with working with Jimi Hendrix. How about some recollections about the days with the 4 lads from Liverpool?
I did 2 sessions with the Beatles. One was called All You Need Is Love, and the other was Baby You're a Rich Man. And this is more of a story than a digression. That was 67 at Olympic once again, and a fantastic time for me because that year was the Stones, the Beatles, the Hendrix, Traffic, and the Small Faces, and on and on and on and on. It was like an amazing year of intense recording. And, this was the year that the Beatles were coming out with their, I think, pièce de résistance. And they couldn't get in. They couldn't get into their own studio. They couldn't get into EMI Abbey Road. It was booked. And they called up the best studio in town, us. We were see, EMI Records owned Abbey Road and still does. It was a corporate thing. the engineers walked around with white lab coats on, with pens in their pockets and stuff. It's very strict, very conservative. That's how it used to be. It was like the BBC, it was very rigid. Great engineers. I mean, the guys knew their shit. I mean, they really did know their stuff. But it was still very tight. So they had heard about Olympic. Oh, the Stones have been recording. In fact, they'd even come over. They'd recorded. I remember I was assisting Glyn Johns one night, and the Beatles came in when we were doing what the hell was that song? It's on what's that album cover of the Stones where it's got that little 3D picture? Standing Majesties. Thank you very much. I actually ended up playing percussion on one of those tracks, among a million other people all stoned out of our minds. Boom. Oh, I got a story about the Stones. Remind me, okay. So the Beatles, knowing about Olympic being the independent sort of cool studio, they booked the time, came in, and we were shit scared. I mean, we were scared because as much as we had done the Stones and Hendrix, the Beatles like they're up here somewhere, And Keith Grant, who was the chief engineer, said to me, "Well, we got to show these guys. We got to show them how good we are." We recorded "Baby You're a Rich Man," the track, the overdubbing, and the mixing in one night. Everything from start to finish, the whole thing. John Lennon's out there, banging away on the guitar. He puts it down, looks over in the studio, and because this is a big studio, the size of this room, and they had symphony orchestras in, and we did film. It was like this, like with a projection booth, screen at one end, and there was always instruments lying around. There was a string bass over here. There was a bunch of electronic instruments in one corner, and Lennon walks over to the pile of instruments, and they are French electronic instruments for musique concrète. I don't know if you've ever heard of this stuff. There's an onduline, a clavioline, and he looks at this. How does this work now? Let me see. And there's this little keyboard about that big, and there's a little thumb slot. You put your thumb in there, and you play the chord, and you move this like bar up and down, and you can shake it so when you hit the chord, it goes boing, boing, boing. So if you listen to, that sound on "Baby You're a Rich Man," that's a clavioline. That's Lennon playing that. There were all sorts of incidents like that where we would use compression. You wouldn't believe. There's a compressed piano on there that's going through a small Leslie speaker. That dang, 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 that sound, that's the Steinway piano, heavily compressed, fed through the Q system into the vocal booth, and it had a little Leslie speaker about that big with elastic band driving it. That's how we got that sound. Sometime later, we were asked to do another session for the Beatles. George Martin comes in with the lads, and they all sit down and say, "Well, we got to do this thing now for this TV thing, So Lennon once again was leading the session. Lennon sits next to me. I'm going, eesh. And we rigged up the talk, those talkback mics with a little swivel deal on them, a little tiny microphone, and it's got like a stem, gooseneck, thank you. That was on the talkback on the producer's desk. So we rigged that up so he could sit in the control room and sing to the guys out in the studio. So he's sitting next to me going, "All you need is love, do, 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 do. All you need," and they're all out there playing. So what does McCartney pick up? Keith Grant's string bass. That's a string bass that he's playing. George Martin is playing a harpsichord that just happened to be in the studio. So all of these things were lucky accidents. And they would start the song, and the one thing George Martin said to me, "Don't stop the tape." And they go like this. All you need is love. They go right through to the end of the song, and they get to the end of the song, and Lennon goes, 1, 2, 3, boom. All you need is love. They never stop. He just